Welcome, everyone. This is the Penciled In Podcast, the show where two working artists and creators chat with guests. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Lindsay. We're going to be discussing so many interesting subjects with you guys. Art, sketch cards, collecting, publishing, tools, materials, all sorts. Perhaps we can finally understand why we all do this to ourselves.
Hey, everyone. In this episode, we are going to chat with Activity Doctor. This is going to be a little bit of an incognito episode. Keeps things interesting. I cannot wait to chat with you. Welcome. It's going to be interesting. We're going to be chatting about a little bit of the message boards, the demise of message boards, the ones that are keeping going. There are a few still. And eBay, the eBay ecosystem and all of that. So welcome aboard.
Hey.
Welcome, Doctor.
And you can call me Jeff. You don't have to say Activity Doctor. Jeff is fine. I'm not that hidden.
Dr. Jeff.
All right.
So can you tell us, how did you first start getting into collecting? What set you off? Did you do it as a kid? Was it when you grew up? What first?
I didn't really collect cards as a kid, so it wasn't that. What hooked me in sort of the modern era, if you want to say that, was when Rittenhouse started producing Marvel sets. I don't even know how I came across the first ones. It must have been seeing something on eBay when I was just looking around for stuff. And the very first set that I then personally got interested in was the Women of Marvel Series 1 from 2008. And I ordered a case from Rittenhouse just to get those cards, the sketch cards from those. And that was the beginning of it. So Rittenhouse and Women of Marvel Series 1 was, for me, the beginning.
And from there, we were speaking, you've been quite active on message boards. And I think the one you mentioned was Scandal?
Scoundrel, right. Yeah, so back in the day,
not Scandal. Scoundrel.
Yeah, that was the place to go if you were into sketch cards. And it was actually a vibrant artist and collector community where there was good interaction between the people doing the sketch cards and the people buying the sketch cards. And this was before there was really, not that there's a lot of money in it for sketch card artists, unfortunately, but this was before it became, for me, a business, and for, I think, other people, a way of thinking about it monetarily. It was just a hobby, right? And so people were getting together and talking on Scoundrel about the cards and the artwork they liked and trying to figure out where to find cards they wanted and trading. And so there was a lot of good conversation there. I think the website still exists. So every once in a while I remember it and I go look, and so you can read old threads on there. But I think what happened, Ingrid was asking about the demise of message boards. I think what happened there was that some artists didn't like the negative feedback that they would sometimes get. Who does? Who wants to hear that, right? And so they started leaving, right? And then it became less artists and more collectors. And then it became collectors competing over stuff. And, it was no longer a community in the sense of people just hanging out doing things they liked. And then I think the ultimate demise of at least Scoundrel would be something like Facebook, where people could then create their own pages, like the Pernas have, right? Pernas Studios, and they just do their own thing there. They don't need to be on Scoundrel to talk about sketch cards. They make comments on their own Facebook page. So that, I think, is the ultimate one. If we're going to stick talking about message boards, there is still one active community that I've seen that I monitor, which is at Blowout Cards, and it's called the Blowout Forum. So that one has a lot of active users, a lot of people posting. So if people are interested in finding a non-sport card community to talk to, that's where I would recommend that they go to.
It's the one cool. That I visited, Blowout Forums.
Yeah,
I've been to that one. No, it's good. It's good on there. So, well, that's interesting. Facebook kind of destroyed the message boards. I wonder
I think that was probably it, mostly Facebook, right? People could have their own channels. They don't need someone else supporting their channel.
I actually remember that in those days. I was on Scoundrel a lot too back then, and the whole, everybody's going to Facebook, and it ended up being true. I thought that Scoundrel would last longer than it did, and unfortunately it didn't. It was a great place. There were a few A few people I thought that maybe created a bit of drama and stuff like that that wasn't necessary. And there
It
were,
is the internet, right?
well, there you go. That's it. And we all kind of had to learn our lessons and stuff. But yeah, it's a shame because that particular forum, there were a lot of really well-known people now that started out there, and who already had established themselves and were just casually partaking in sketch cards and then moved on to other things. It was fascinating. I learned a lot from people over there. It was incredible.
Yeah,
It was
no,
really
great
a
names.
remarkable place.
Yeah, great names. I missed the early days when artists were just as much the fans as the people buying the cards were, the
Yes,
way they would talk
it
about it.
was fun. It really was fun, actually. So what about, well, do you interact? So sketch cards is like a bit of a job for you in some ways now, right?
Yeah, nowadays. So back in 2008, bought that case of Women of Marble sketch cards, and then just started buying some product directly from Rittenhouse to open and then resell the things that I didn't want to keep for myself. So it all started innocently enough, right? And Rittenhouse had a incentive tiering to you buy X number of cases and you get bonus cards, which were often highly collectible artists. So there was incentive to order multiple cases. So you start going down that rabbit hole, and now you have a lot of cases, and and then it just becomes something that you start doing more and more of. So that's what happened with me, right? It wasn't a plan. It was like, oh, I think I want to go into non-sports cards or marble cards and sell them. But it just sort of snowballed to the point where you got so much stuff, you're like, oh my God. So yes, I am inundated. I'm not complaining now because marble was so hot that it turns out that was a good hobby to have at the time. But now it is really just a business, right? What I'm getting, I really don't keep anything. There's one or two people's work that I like, and if I happen to get a card, I'll save that behind. But mostly it's open and posted. So yeah, selling sketch cards on eBay under the Sketchopolix name. That's what I use there.
So you're still involved with them.
And yeah, certainly. Buying through Upper Deck now, or actually you can't buy directly through Upper Deck, but buying through distributors who distribute Upper Deck. And then Upper Deck has that electronic platform where they're selling physical product called ePacks. So buying there and having cards from there to resell. But
I'd
yeah,
like,
so it's a business now.
okay. So what do you think of these digital cards and digital apps for trading cards? And I don't know if there's sketch cards involved with that. I don't really know very much about it. What do you think of that?
Well, I'll talk about the ePacks platform, which was, I think, it's certainly the most popular one at this point, though I think Topps might have started digital cards before ePacks came out, but I'm not really sure about that because I didn't follow it. That's a multi-layered question. What do I think about digital cards themselves? If there's no physical variant of it, not something I want, but I'm not that age group either where they want to live in the electronic world. So for them, I get a virtual reality card is probably meaningful. I will say philosophically, the ideas of like an NFT, this piece of art that exists forever on a computer being served by giant server farms that are consuming electricity to keep your artwork alive forever. That seems to an unsustainable thing to me. And so for people who are concerned about a bigger picture perspective on things, not that I own, not owning a piece of electronic art, but how do you sustain that? And if you're worried about the future of the environment, I think you need to think twice about it. So that's my impression of NFTs. I'm not a fan because I think it's not a sustainable model. So I know there's energy cost of producing a physical card too, but at least it's a one and done, as opposed to, if you're going to have this digital card forever, you got to keep a computer alive forever, right? So,
Yeah.
anyway, so that's a sort of a going far afield. ePacks itself is a combination of digital and physical cards. So when you open product on ePacks, you get physical cards, but you also get digital cards that you can, their way of trying to sell you on that is you get enough of the digital cards, then you can redeem them for a physical card in some cases. I'm only in it for the physical cards. I don't really
Just do
care
the
about
physical
the digital. What was that, Lindsay?
If you're saving up your digital to get a real one, you might as well just have the real ones, haven't you?
Well, that's true, but then Upper Deck doesn't sell you multiple packs so that you, it's a business model for them. I totally get it. I mean, I'm actually quite impressed with e-packs. I think it's a fantastic idea from a personal perspective of making money. They came up with a great idea, and I'm actually surprised other companies aren't doing that. Right? They should have just copied what they're doing and created their own platforms to sell their cards, like Topps. Now I realize Topps has been bought by.
They definitely will, won't they?
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I think about those things. It's convenient to be able to. What I like about it is I have thousands of cards stored on e-packs. I don't have them in my physical storage. I don't take the risk of losing or damaging them, and I don't need the physical space to store it. So from a business perspective on my end, this company that's holding the cards is basically giving me free storage. So I don't mind that.
You were helping to explain to me grading earlier, because I've done a little bit of listing on eBay. And it'll give you so many options about these gradings and this. I don't understand any of it. I mean, I've never collected baseball cards or anything like that, or So you were going into the grading, and I assume it's something to do with the condition of the card.
Right. So I'm no expert on that either. I have thought a little bit about it more recently because as marble cards have become very hot, the idea of having them graded appears to increase the value. So I figure I should know a little bit about it, but I still have never graded a card myself. So there are several companies that do it. My understanding is if you're going to bother doing it, you use a company called PSA because that's the most respected one. So people want to see a PSA graded card versus any other company. So that's one thing to think about. My general understanding of what makes a card get a higher grade, which it's usually, I think it's on a scale of 10. So a 10 would be a perfect card that has no blemishes, theoretically. The main thing they're looking at are how are the corners? Is there any chipping along the edges, right? So sometimes when cards are cut, whatever made on the card, you might see chipping, particularly if it's a foil card. And is the surface unblemished, right? No pitting or scratches or whatever. So I think those are the main things that go into whether you get a high grade or not. You had asked earlier when we were talking off mic about grading sketch cards. To me, it doesn't make any sense because by definition, you've degraded the card by drawing on it, right? So maybe you as artists think you've upgraded it, but from a condition perspective, you
just ruined it.
Yeah, you just took a perfectly unblemished card and you soiled it, right? So grading that doesn't make any sense.
I have a little fun fact on that one. Years and years ago, Topps asked us very nicely, to please keep the cards completely clean when we were working on them, except of course from where we're drawing.
What you drew.
Once I started using paint, I quickly discovered that was impossible. There's paint all over my cards and on the back of them and everywhere. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then finally, there were a few issues where we had copied cards, and I'm sure you are aware of some of the scandals that went on years and years ago with
Hypnogate.
Yeah.
I don't remember the names. I remember someone was using a dot matrix printer to scan and reproduce cards, right?
I think there were two people that I know of who did that, and probably others too. But there were a couple of people who did that. But what they couldn't do was to recreate, the effects of paint or ink or what have you on the backs of the cards. So I thought, wait a minute, maybe it's to my advantage if I'm a messy painter. So since then, I don't bother at all about it. Well, I try to keep it minimal, of course, but I don't really bother with the figure, well, what you going to do?
Panic.
I mean, there's bleed through for a lot of people's work when they're just using regular ink. So yeah, you see the bleed through on the back, which would be another thing that I would think would lower a grade on a card. But again,
I would think it would put it up because then it's a legit card.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Anyway, so grading sketch cards, I've seen it, right? I see them on eBay being sold. From reading boards and what collectors think about it, I doubt that enhances the price much. But again, having said that, we're in interesting times with marble cards where you're getting people who aren't typical non-sport card collectors coming in thinking that they can buy for investing purposes. And they care about grading. I've had plenty of people ask me to scan the back of sketch cards. I mean, that happens all the time now, which it never happened until maybe 2 years ago. And my guess is that they're trying to see if the back of it looks relatively unblemished or whatever. I don't know. I don't personally. I don't bother doing that. I just like I'm selling the art. I'm not selling a graded card. If you want a graded card, buy a graded card. So I don't do that.
Interesting. I did not even know that there were certain companies that actually did the grading. Like I don't know where I thought it came from, but so they pay to get them graded, I assume.
Exactly. And the more valuable the card, the more you got to pay. So actually, one of the things that has happened in Marvel, because there are cards literally selling for thousands of dollars now, if you want to grade those kinds of cards, it costs you a lot of money. It's not cheap.
So,
but the only reason I would have thought people would have got their cards graded was to sell them for more. But you know,
well, that is the point. But you got to pay something for that. So you better know you have a good card that you're sending in. Otherwise, you're wasting your money, right? So
in the end of it, sketch cards really are a business for some people then. Well, obviously not for the artists as much as for some of the collectors. There really is like a...
There's a secondary market for your sketch cards. Yeah, I mean, there are... that has seen a slight bump price-wise. Recently, in the last year, I would say prices on sketch cards have gone up compared to what they used to be. So back in the day when I first started doing it, your low-end cards... you'd be lucky to sell them for $10 to $20, right? People that didn't, it's characters they didn't want or artists that they didn't want. And now I would say, I mean, I could sell some of those cards that I would have priced like that now for probably more like $50 or something like that. But I've had sales of $50 or $60 on artists that I couldn't sell for $20 before. And for, maybe mid-tier artists that I couldn't sell for $60. I have personally sold some of those cards for like $200 now. So the prices have definitely gone up across the board there. There are people, and I think these are not necessarily sport card people. These are just people getting into sketch cards now. What happened with Upper Deck when they started producing cards, they charged more for their boxes than Rittenhouse did. So it's costing you more to buy in. And so people are just charging more because it costs more to buy the product. And so you see a lot of sketch cards that people who I think probably didn't know anything about sketch cards, but it was a one of one. So they're just like, oh, we'll just put it up for $200. And I think that has helped bring the market up because there's just so many people out there listing prices really high that I used to be the high price guy. And now for some stuff, I'm like the low price guy.
So where is your favorite place to conduct business?
Website, eBay right now is the place where most of the sales are happening for sure. So if I was going to get into selling cards, eBay is where I would be going right now. That seems to be the hot place for people to search.
So you're not into the fact that people may be selling on either their own websites or perhaps on Facebook, or I think you can sell things on Instagram too, although I've never tried it, or even Etsy or something like that. That's like a waste of time in your opinion?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's a waste of time necessarily. I think you only have so much time, and I've been invested in selling on eBay for so long that, I got this store with thousands and thousands of items in it. To go reproduce that somewhere else is a lot of time at work. So in one sense, it doesn't make sense. Sales have been robust, as I've said lately, so I don't see the point of leaving. You had asked earlier about the cost of it. So, eBay's charging, I don't know, 12 or 13% all told, I think, on the final sale for relatively low priced items. When you sell really, really expensive stuff, the percentage goes down considerably. But for, stuff that's $100, $200, they're taking, I think, about 13% if I were to add it all up.
They charge me twice. They take a lot. They charge me twice. They take a percentage off the front when I sell something.
Right.
And at the end of the month, I have like a usage fee or something. So they charge me twice when I sell, which is why I almost never sell on eBay anymore. It's like I have to be sure to put the price up way higher than I would have just to be able to cover the cost.
Well, that's true. I mean, so there's that final value fee that I pay. My account, I think it's a fairly basic account. There's a monthly fee, but it's not crazy. I want to say it's something like $40 a month for having the account open, and then you pay your final value fees. So,
do you think you could get away with selling a promise? Like some people pre-sell, don't they? You could sell you could go 99p, like, if you buy this, then this card's going to be yours, and you can come and pay me properly at my website. I don't know if you can get away with that.
There probably are workarounds. You know, eBay obviously doesn't want you doing that, but yeah, there's probably
Well,
ways.
did you notice they started taking the fee out of the postage as well, because people were listing the item cheap and bumping the
And then
postage
the
up?
postage is $100, but the item is 99 cents. Yeah.
Like, you haven't made any money off postage, but it's included in your percentage now, and you're just like,
Yes. Yeah, they did do that. I noticed that. I was never playing that game, so it didn't really affect me, but it was interesting to see. The other thing eBay is doing now, and I don't know how much you guys value your things at, but eBay, if your card sells for $500 or more, they're sending it to a third-party authenticator who basically says, yes, this is what you bought, and then they forward it to your buyer at the end. And right at the moment, eBay isn't charging, though you expect at some point they will charge for this. But it gives you this coverage to know that once you mail the card out, the buyer can't say, oh, I didn't get what I paid for, because this third-party person is looking at it and saying yes. And I have had that happen, and other sellers have had that happen, where you mailed
That happened to me too. I used PayHip to sell some cards once, and I don't recommend it.
There you go. Well, so eBay is giving protection on these higher priced things. And again, as a seller, I'm totally in favor of that idea. So that's worked out well. So that's another thing. If you're selling high priced things, that eBay is adding this level of protection for you as a seller and buyer. So I think that's not bad. So I think ultimately you were questioning, Ingrid, whether or not you should sell on eBay again. Obviously it becomes a money thing. You do the math to figure out if you can afford it. I mean, you add into the price, as you said. I mean, you feel bad about that, I guess, but if people are going to be willing to pay it, whatever. It's another avenue for advertising yourself. So at least that's out there.
It is.
As Lindsay suggests, you can redirect them to your website eventually, right? You form a relationship. You can
Somehow, I haven't figured out how to do that. You can't put anything that links off site. You can't even use you can't even say if you're talking with a buyer, you can't even say email me in the same paragraph, even if the words are separate, and it will say no, you cannot send that email. It's crazy.
Yes, eBay doesn't want you to do that for obvious reasons.
You have to actually type at instead of doing the at symbol.
They will sometimes catch you on that. I've tried that.
There are workarounds. Some people take pictures and post an image, right, rather than write the text.
That's an amazing idea.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's your $1 million idea.
I didn't think of that.
Take a picture of the text, a screenshot of the text, and send them the screenshot instead of writing it out.
You're so smart. Why didn't I think of that? I never thought of that.
I don't do that. Like I said, I don't do that either. I don't want to sell directly because it's just more work, right? What I like about eBay is, here it is, it's sold, here's the address, mail it, right? And I don't need to do anything else. I'm talking to people via email back and forth, not interested in that, right? I don't mind it, but it's often a waste of time. And so with eBay, it's old, right? So,
I used to sell, have you ever heard of TY beanies?
Oh yeah, Beanie Babies? Sure, I was in the Beanie Baby craze. I got bunches.
They're called Beanie Boos, but like, what I found was if I was selling on Facebook, I'd spend all day taking photos and faffing about and what's this got and this one and that one.
Exactly, right?
And by the end of the day, if they haven't bought it, it's like I've got nothing to show for today.
For all that time, exactly.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom.
Etsy is very similar to that too. Your images have to be a particular size. You have a whole page of stuff. You can copy and redo the page again, but you have to do over again. You have to go over again. And then if you sell offline, Etsy is not perfect either. It's been my workaround, and I do have followers now, not that many, but I do have a few. But yeah, maybe if eBay has changed a little bit, maybe I should give it a try again. I don't know.
Well, like I said, sketch card prices are generally appreciating. If you're drawing desirable Marvel characters, because that's what I focus on, Marvel, right? If you're drawing desirable characters like Spider-Man and Venom and other Spider-Man related ones, Avengers related ones, you can expect to get a decent price if your work is being appreciated. So I would give it a shot.
I tried selling the first volume of my book on eBay, and it went nowhere.
Hmm.
I actually sold way more on Etsy and Facebook than I did on eBay. I don't know why.
I, just thinking about it from my perspective as somebody who, does search for sketch cards occasionally, I wouldn't know I wouldn't have known it was out there. So it wouldn't have come up in any of my searches because my
Uh,
search would be like Marvel sketch. Those are the terms. So in
there's
order
true.
to
There's a
catch
science
that,
around your search words. I think
yeah, so you
you
would
have
have
to kind of
needed
think
to
about that.
include the right words in the name of your book in order to get the hits
Aha. Okay.
of the people who might be interested. Right?
I,
What that magic combination is, I wouldn't know for sure. But I think your biggest problem is people didn't know it was on eBay. That's why they didn't buy it.
that could be. That could be. I have a feeling that no matter what platform you pick, there is a science around it that you kind of have to figure out. A little ball of wool you have to keep figuring out. And
Right. No doubt.
anyway, so you're still active in all of that. You do you actually participate in forums anymore, or
I
have you?
post occasionally on Blowout is abbreviated BO, so usually I just say BO. I do occasionally post on BO, just some things, but I'm not active because I'm not really a collector anymore. I'm not active like that, talking about my interests and things. One of the things that I learned too from the downside of the scoundrel experience is once people realize what you wanted to buy, well, then they become more expensive, right? So you had less incentive to talk about it at that point, right? So
Yeah, well, that's normal enough, I guess.
yeah, that's a normal thing that would happen. But initially, going back to the early days of Scoundrel, people weren't like that. They were like, "Oh yeah, you like that artist? Great. I like this artist, and here's what we want." And
It was
it
really
wasn't about
relaxed back then. It
yeah.
really was.
And I'm as guilty as anybody about making it about the money because I mean that's how I went, right? I decided to buy product, and then I needed to sell it to justify buying it, and so you needed to make money, right? So it's not like I'm a saint in all that. I was part of the problem as much as anybody else, I think.
That is one thing I find a little bit difficult to kind of get my head around sometimes. For instance, for you, this is the first time that I'm meeting you, and yet I remember you from 15 years ago.
Hmm.
But when you're reading people typing certain things in a thread on a forum or something or on Facebook, the tone that will come across is almost always different than if the person had actually said it to you. So now when I'm actually with doing this podcast, when I'm actually talking with the actual people and people that I've interacted with for a long time, I don't know if it's similar for you, Lindsay, but you begin to realize that, most people really are just people and they're not quite as evil as you thought they were way back then, if I may say so.
Hopefully, I wasn't perceived as evil. I think I had a good
Well,
rep.
no, I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but
No, I
you know
know,
what I
I
mean.
know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the flaw of texting and digital communication. There's no nuance. We all know that, right? It's not like this is a discovery. But.
So what do you think the future? Go ahead, Lindsay. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask a little bit more about because I've seen a lot about eBay scams recently, and I thought you might know a little bit about that with selling on eBay. Like, what are these? How would you scam it? How are they managing to sell cards that aren't real? What's going on there?
Right. So I don't know where the thing you saw. I have seen a couple of posts on BO where they're talking about eBay scams. I don't read them or follow them because I have never been scammed on eBay in a serious way. The worst problem that I've had is what I described earlier, where the buyer would say they didn't receive what they sent and they were just trying to steal it from you. And because they have a lot of protection, it was easy for them to do that, right? The credit card company ultimately will side with them. So that's why I like this new verification thing for expensive items. But even on the scale of how much I've sold and how many times people have tried to steal from me, it's loss, right? It's like a business. Losses occur, you just write it off as lost inventory, even though you feel bad about it because someone stole it from you. So I don't think scamming has been a major problem as far as I see it. I don't know what this new thing is. But I agree with you that I've seen posts recently on Blowout about scamming, and I don't know what they're talking about. So I can give you my perspective of how I've been scammed. What I've already told you about buyers. When I was a collector, the way that I was scammed was that artists would ask for payment up front for artist-proof sketch cards and then would not deliver. So there were two artists for whom That happened to me.
I know who they are.
Right. So yeah, and anybody in the sketch card world has knowledge of those stories. So if you're going to do that now and going forward, what I would tell anybody is you pay via PayPal. You don't send a personal payment. It's a business payment, right? The person eats the fees. If they don't want to eat the fees, charge more money, right? Then you won't. And put a timeline on it, right? Because I think PayPal probably gives you 3 months of protection. I don't remember exactly. So if you want to give them 3 months, fine. But personally, I think that's ridiculous. They don't need that much time to do a sketch card, or shouldn't. And they shouldn't be taking business if they need that much time. They should wait until their schedule is clear before they solicit sales again. So I would say I want it back in a month, and if not, I'm going to request a refund, and that's how that goes. So that's what I would do if I was a sketch card buyer today.
Unless, of course, you formed a relationship with the people that you commission from. I don't know how you personally do it, but if you know the person and you know you can rely on them, then I would imagine you'd be a little bit more forgiving. I completely agree with you and think that people that you're dealing with new, personally, and I'm sure that for Lindsay it's probably similar. If you have someone whom you don't know who is actually asking you to do a card, you would want, maybe if you don't know who those people are, I might ask half up front if it was something that I wasn't able to sell. If I knew it was a topic that whatever happened and the person flew away, which does happen, if I know I can sell it again, I don't mind doing it for no money up front. But if it's something that I'm not sure I can sell, I would want you to pay at least half of it so that I know you're going to come back.
Yeah, doesn't sound unreasonable. Like I said, I'd be happy to pay all of it. I just have to have a timeline that fits within the refund timeline of PayPal.
Yeah, whatever. That's right.
I'm good because I can request a refund when I don't get it 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, if you have a personal relationship with somebody and you don't really care about giving them money, then you would be fine to do that. There's also Patreon, right? You guys could solicit money that way.
Yeah, right? Patreon. We have. Yeah.
There you go. But that's like a donation, right? So that's how I would look at it. At that point, it's a donation to you, and if you send me what we're agreeing on, great.
Well, even platforms like Patreon, usually it's kind of like you said, Lindsay, it's a little bit of a promise, because with a Patreon, you're promising to offer something, whatever it may be, in return for at least some financial support, moral support, whatever it may be, or something like that. So yeah, there are a lot of trust issues in this industry. I don't know, Lindsay, have you sold on eBay a lot? That's not something I never asked you.
I did with toys, and I have recently started selling cards on eBay. What happened was I used to offer them in groups on Facebook, and they all used to sell. But recently, they're all going for my cartoon work rather than my official realism work. So I thought, well, I'll try them on eBay. And whereas I used to get around £100 in the groups, I'm getting around £300 on eBay. So it's
go.
I mean, I absolutely love the people in our community that I speak to, but when you're going to get 3 times as much somewhere else, it pays your bills. So
yeah, there are a lot more eyeballs on eBay than there is in your Facebook group. So if you think about it as a numbers game, there's that opportunity. And if you sell internationally, I think one of the things that has changed our market a little bit is China specifically. Buyers overseas, though.
Yes.
Yeah, but
I've been talking about China for weeks, haven't I? Now, they are such good customers.
Yeah. And I don't even sell internationally, but they figure out how to buy. They use a third-party reshipping company from the United States, and then they just have the stuff shipped to there. But yeah, particularly for Perna Studios, I don't know what you guys have noticed, but Perna Studios have had a lot of overseas buyers willing to pay the kind of money that other people won't. Right. So
yeah, I've sold books, quite a lot of books over to China as well, actually, shockingly.
I'd really love to get somebody on from China, like who can
speak.
us on
you guys know Do you know Elaine Perna well?
Yes,
Or?
we just interviewed her a couple of weeks ago.
So, I mean, I know they obviously have a couple of customers. She might be able to refer one of those people. There is one who I think is from China who has been posting on their Facebook page. When I occasionally look at that, I noticed that. So maybe she can give you a referral if you're looking for someone. They might be able to.
I'm pretty sure we won't have too much trouble once the time comes to actually put the call out.
There you go.
I'm not really.
A lot of Chinese customers. It's just I've asked a couple of them already, actually, but they're just like, my English isn't good enough, so it'll be finding somebody, who can back and forth with us. But yeah, okay, I'm just so interested about what's happening there.
Yeah.
It just seems to come from nowhere.
I don't know exactly what it is other than the general economic upturn that China has been having for the last 40 years. That's probably helped. But
I feel a little leery of chatting too much just because of the political situation out there, and I don't want to rock anybody's boat or anything like that. But it would be interesting. It is always interesting to hear an opinion from the other side, if you get my drift. From any other side, it is always interesting to know how things are working and how it applies to us as creative people. Because, well, actually, it's kind of apropos because today, you have two working artists who are talking with someone who actually is a business dealer. So it's rather interesting. What is your opinion on the creative people overall? Do you follow any artists? Do you actually create art? What do you think the future is there a future for sketch cards as such?
I think so. I mean, sketch cards seem to be continuing to sell. Again, my niche is following Marvel, and so whatever Upper Deck is having artists do, there's a business there, right? The cards are selling, so I think there's a future. What is my opinion of sketch card artists? You guys aren't getting paid enough from companies like Upper Deck, but on the flip side, you're getting publicity, right? So I always thought there was some kind of trade-off that was worth something, even though you weren't getting paid much to actually do the work. You're getting publicity. I still think probably you should get paid more. And then my understanding is smaller companies like Perna pay better. So it's nice, particularly Perna Studios, the quality of the work that people do for them is amazing. So whatever payment model they've got going on, it's working to motivate their artists.
There are several small companies that are actually paying very reasonable rates. I mean, our Parks is doing the same thing, and he's working very hard on getting a style going for his company. And there's a company in Greece that's doing some very creative things.
Okanakis's
yes,
business. Yep.
Iconic Creations.
Right, Iconic Creations. Yep. And then you have Brains is trying to come out of Mexico. I don't know how that's going.
I see cards every once in a while.
I've done a set for them.
Right.
So
yeah, I think I think it's interesting. Not being asked, do I create art? I write. I mean, so that is my creative outlet, but not graphic art. So I don't do that.
Can I ask what you write?
For fun, poetry, but not for profit. I mean, who does that? And then in my career, writing is partly what I do, right? So I have to do some of that as well. But that because the selling cards originally was just a hobby job, right? And now it's kind of morphed into some craziness, but it's still not my real job. So.
Okay. What do you see as the future for your particular hobby? Like, do you think you're going to continue having?
No, it's too much work. If anybody's listening to this and they want to buy about 10 years worth of inventory, and you have a lot of money, because I have a lot of really high value inventory, I'm looking to sell. So reach out to Sketchopolix and say, hey, look, I got big bucks and I want to take over your business. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, you got to scan all that stuff, you put it up on eBay, then you're checking and selling and shipping stuff on a regular basis, daily, generally for me. I don't need that. And because Marvel prices are so strong right now, and I have a lot of high quality Marvel stuff, if I could just sell the whole thing one lot and get what it was kind of valued at, maybe 50% of what it's valued at, I'd be happy. So please, if you want to get into the business and you have a lot of money, contact me.
Well, we'll drop all your contact info in the show notes. Don't worry.
Sketchopolix is tired. Is that
Sketchopolix@gmail.com. That's my email address, my business email address. So feel free to use that.
Do you know a lot of other people who do the same job as you with cards, other card dealers, or are you kind of in your own little world of
There are other people like me, small time people that have made it a sort of a second job that they are doing. I have one person that I talk to on a regular basis that I have a relationship with, and everybody else are just people out there that I know that are doing it. Actually, I should say two. So JR Comics is another person that sells a lot. And his name is Henry. Henry's a great guy, really interesting guy. And then Tim Tindy, I think, is the other one, and his name is Tim. So those are the two other dealers that I have a personal relationship with. I know another seller, Peter Gina, I think is what they're called. It's a husband-wife name combined together. So Peter's a good guy too. So yeah, I mean, I think there are interesting people that are on the selling side of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you have any words of maybe some advice to give people who are either beginning to sell on eBay or might want to start selling again on eBay, or just, to stay safe a little bit without getting scammed themselves by buyers?
Yeah, well, for all that lower price stuff, eBay says if you require a signature and the people sign, you're covered. They don't require a signature if it's less than $750 or $500. I think it's $750 on eBay. Okay. So technically, if you can demonstrate that it was delivered, you're probably covered. So I wouldn't worry too much about being scammed. So I don't know why people are talking about it. It's not a big epidemic. I don't think people are going to get scammed by selling on eBay to unscrupulous buyers. Once in a while, something's going to happen. But again, it's just loss from a business perspective. You just write it off as lost inventory when you file your taxes at the end of the year or whatever you're going to do. So I wouldn't worry about being scammed. So that'd be number one. Don't be afraid. It's going to be fine. You have to be able, obviously, to buy at the right price to be able to make money. So generally that means you probably need a business license so that you can get an account with a distributor who will sell it to you for a little bit less than buying it from me. For example, like if I was going to sell it for you, I'm selling it to you at a retail price, and you have to hope you're buying something that goes up in value so that then you can open it and make money. So you need a business license, probably, right? So that you can get an account with a wholesaler. I would use Upper Deck's ePack site as a way to buy directly from Upper Deck. The prices are wholesale, are retail, but given how Marvel cards are going and the fact that even wholesalers are charging retail prices now, like I can't buy a wholesale case of Marvel cards from a distributor for better than what Upper Deck is going to charge me generally. And if I can, it's a very small quantity. Right, so they're even restricting how much they sell because they're holding on to it long term, going, I know these prices are going to go up, so we're not going to sell all the boxes Upper Deck has allocated to us at the wholesale price. We're going to wait until prices go up, and then we're going to charge more. So even distributors are in on the game now. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you're
blame me for getting out of that. That's wrong. Yeah, that's just so wrong.
Everybody wants a piece of that pie.
It's not cheaper.
They're supposed to be cheaper, but they are no longer cheaper, right? So, for example, I was saying it last time, I don't even bother pre-ordering from my distributor anymore because I know they'll just allocate me. So I just let them tell me how much they're going to give me. Oh, I'll give you 3 boxes. A really popular product right now is Marvel Masterpieces. It comes out every couple of years. So the last, if I was buying as a real reseller, I would want to buy cases of that at a wholesale price. I want, 10 cases or something like that. The last time I tried to do that, like I said, I don't bother anymore because I know it doesn't work. I think they probably gave me 6 boxes if I placed a 10-case order, or 3. I mean, which is a half of a case, or because those are 12-box cases, so it's a half of a case or a quarter of a case on an order that I would have wanted 10 cases of. So that's a difficult thing for someone just getting into the business now, is you can't even buy from distributors a decent enough quantity to really make money. So now you're hoping that you got the lottery ticket, right? That you opened the box that had the lottery ticket inside of it. It has become much more of a gamble than a business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're not going to bother if you're risking not earning anything and you've put all the effort in, and there's no point.
I mean, up until the last couple of years when Marvel cards have gone crazy, I was basically working for free. I wasn't making any money. I mean, I was selling stuff, but all the time and effort and the cost you put into it, it really wasn't worth it. And even now, I'm telling you that I think the time is too much. Like, I don't want to work that hard at what I'm doing. I think if you just bought sealed product and only resold bought sealed and hope it would go up in value so you could resell it, that's probably a way of having a sort of a time unintensive, but you have to be willing to hold for a year or 2 years, right? So you have to be able to afford that, right?
That's a lot of speculation in this.
Yeah, it has become very speculative, right? That's
Okay.
sure.
Lindsay, do you have any last questions before I ask for all
The last contact details.
Yeah.
No, I think that's it. I think I'm just processing what you said.
That's a lot. It is extremely fascinating.
Do you think this little boom has been to do with lockdown and everyone being stuck in and having to get some sort of hobby again? And do you think that's any impact on it?
I think that's part of it. I mean, I think people wanted something to do, and so they found cards. Marvel specifically, speculation is a big piece of what's going on right now, that people in the sports card world who are accustomed to seeing things sell for millions of dollars. I mean, there are sports cards that sell for millions of dollars. You're aware of that, maybe, or maybe not, because neither of you guys are American. But the American sports card market, like, if you have a baseball card, do you know who Tom Brady is? Football player, right? He's pretty famous. So if you have a rookie card of someone like that was printed only a few copies of it, millions of dollars, right? You can sell that card for millions of dollars literally today. So those people are looking at non-sports cards and saying, well, how come a card where there's only 5 of them that exist in football for this product, there's 5 of these Marvel cards, how come people aren't paying millions of dollars for these? How come they're only paying $80 for this? It seems like there's a price mismatch. And I don't disagree. I'm one of those sellers who never sold cards that were only 5 of them. I've never sold them, basically, because it never made any sense for me to say, sell this for $80. I was like, there's only 5 of these. How can I'm not going to give it to you for $80. So I personally always thought it was undersold. I never did anything about it other than to not list it, right? And just hold this stuff. I'm like, I'm not giving it away.
Well, it's a really different crowd also. I mean, when you're thinking of like Marvel or anything else, it's a whole different niche. I mean, it's different people that follow those particular niches, where it's sports cards and all that. There's already, to begin with, there's more money in sports.
Sure.
By far, I think.
And more fans, obviously.
And more fans, and people just know about it more. So actually, I don't find it terribly surprising. I find it a little disgusting. Go ahead.
When I used to sell toys, I'd find some really rare stuff, but nobody wanted it. So then it's not worth anything. And you're like, well, exactly. Hardly any of these exist, but still, people are not interested.
Okay. Well, so anyway, to go back to your question, what's happening is Marvel is people from the sports card world are looking at it and saying this market is underappreciated. It should sell, stuff should sell for more. And they are buying it and pushing the prices up, specifically because they think they should sell for more. And it's working so far. I mean, there's been a general rise in prices. I have sold, the most expensive thing I've sold in the last 2 years, a Marvel card, was for $50,000. So, yeah, exactly. So,
yeah. Oh, $15,000.
So if you can go find Marvel cards from about 10 years, the last 10, from between 2010 and 2016, buy them, right? And
okay, we have to go to all the flea markets we can find, because I'm sure
right, exactly. All the friends in Canada who don't pay attention to eBay and what's happening with prices, get them to, and England apparently. Are you over to England, Lindsay?
Sorry?
Are you in the UK somewhere?
I am. I'm in Yorkshire in England, yeah.
Right. So I don't know if they're out there, but if they are,
I enjoy a good car boot. I found like a massive collection of 2000 AD, and I know they're not worth anything, but they were so fun to read. And I think I only paid £4 for a massive stack like that.
That's great.
So that's fun. Even if you don't find the Marvel cards, you might find other treasures as you go searching around for stuff. Yeah.
So where can people find you if you want to be found?
So eBay, the name is Sketchopolix. The word sketch and then Opolix.
Okay.
I wanted to go with Sketchopolis, like the city of sketches, but I think someone was already using that at some point, somehow. And I was like, all right, I'll just add the X because X is hip, right? X Games and, whatever. X is cool. So that's why I changed it to X. And I have an account on eBay, so you can find everything I'm selling on eBay.
And if you want the filthy rich people to come buy all your collections, where are they going to find you?
gmail.com. So email me. And so it's funny because, we're talking about this speculation. People prefer using phones, and they're always asking you to have social media accounts, Instagram or something. Like, I don't do any of that. You can email me. I'm old school, right? So email me and we'll talk that way.
I still remember when people used to say, no, send me a letter. That's old school. That's how old I am.
Okay, well, that's ancient school. Send me a letter. Okay. Email's old school.
Okay.
I think something 50 years or older becomes antique, right? So letters are antique.
There you go. That was
well, maybe not Lindsay. How old are you, Lindsay?
Lindsay's a baby.
She's a baby. She looks like a baby compared.
Whoop, she just froze there.
She's a frozen baby.
A second. There she is.
I'm vintage.
Vintage.
I'm not antique.
Not
I'm
antique,
vintage.
but vintage. You're vintage.
She's
Okay.
vintage. I'm antique. We make a good team.
All right. Well, hey, good to chat with you guys. I hope I gave you what you were looking for.
Thank you so much for sharing this. It's a point of view that I know that in my tiny little community world of people don't hear very often, and it's very interesting to know. As a creator, and both Lindsay and I are getting into the business of it as well, so it's interesting for each in our own business, but I mean, you get what I'm trying to say. We're getting into all, and it's nice to know a little bit what all of this is. It's all connected. What you do affects us and the price of our work.
I always try to keep sketch prices high. If you ever go look at my eBay pricing, I mean, now, like I said, they're lower because a lot of newbies in the market that think I'm just pricing it at $300 because I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I was always the guy keeping your prices high relative to everybody else.
Okay. Thank you so much. It has been a true pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Take care. Good luck with things.
Okay. Jeff, bye.
All right. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please leave a review wherever you listen. This helps people find us. All links to guests or sites mentioned will be in the show notes. You can find Lindsay on Facebook at Lindsay Grayling Sketchcards or search for Cartoon Cosplay. You can find me at ingridkvhardy.com or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/ingrid.kv.hardy. This podcast is independently funded, meaning the costs come from our pockets. If you'd like to help with even just a couple of dollars, become a patron at patreon.com/ingridhardy. Music and audio editing for this podcast is done by Victor Besset. If you have any feedback on today's episode or want to suggest a question of the week, email us at thepenciledpodcast@gmail.com, tweet us at inpenciled on Twitter, or on Instagram where we are at The Penciled Podcast. We'd love to hear from you.